All right, can everybody hear me okay? TM Fez, how's it going? Plugged in gamer. Welcome to the party. Linbin, hello. Pappy the gamer, yes, let's go indeed. Yep, Brian Salisbury art. Okay, my friends. Didn't think I was going to do this today, but we better.
It's an important stream now.
Yeah, it is an important stream now. Brian Salisbury art is here. So shout out to Brian Solid. I hope I don't misspell the name. Everyone, check out one of your fellow my fellow professors, one of your professors. Hey Aiden, before we get started, do you hang out on YouTube very much?
I use YouTube. I don't particularly create on YouTube too often.
So this has nothing to do with the class we're about to talk about, but last night and yesterday I posted a few like 60-second speedruns from Mario Maker. And somehow they hit the algorithm. Each one of them got about 1,000 views.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did like in the last 48 hours, it's been like 5,000 views. Anyway, I was pretty excited about it.
I think my most popular YouTube video isn't even one that I posted myself. It's just a clip of me on another VTuber stream commentating over Minesweeper, and that somehow blew up.
Yeah, YouTube is weird. Stargazer Sakaki says, let's go, Professor. I'm just waiting. I'm hoping everyone will hop in here. Brian Salisbury, he stopped in. He's excited to hear about some OBS tips and tricks. Just so you know, Brian, Aiden's going to kick us off with some chat about how to adjust your microphone before it even gets to OBS, which I think is awesome. Have you ever done so I have all my settings in my OBS, and it's really nice for stuff like, the clicking of the keyboard, or like my daughter's in the next room playing violin, and you hopefully don't know because I have my settings on my OBS right now for Twitch, but during Zoom meetings or anything else, like for school, it goes right through. So I can see how adjusting that stuff outside of OBS would be super helpful for all the online stuff that everybody does nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me see.
I was going to say I could hear the violin kind of in the background, but I was like, I didn't hear that on the stream, so it was like fine.
Can you hear it when I'm talking, or can you hear it? Let's be quiet for 1 second. Let's see if you can hear it.
Yeah, very faintly, but I think that's just over Zoom.
Oh, just over Zoom. Yeah, because my audio mixer on Twitch isn't moving at all. So we're going to talk about how to fix things like that for like outside noise if you're around the house or you have things come up, how you can eliminate all that extra sound. Brian Salisbury just asked a question for you, Aiden. We're going to talk about in just a minute. You probably saw that, but Brian asked, is NVIDIA Broadcast better than RTX Voice?
So technically speaking, yes, NVIDIA Broadcast is a newer, updated version of RTX Voice. However, NVIDIA Broadcast has a small quirk where it's only compatible with 20 and 30 series cards, whereas RTX Voice will work with any GeForce card. So anything from, I think, like the 2 series up to the 10 series, you can still run RTX Voice. But they're functionally equivalent. I used to run RTX Voice until I upgraded from my 1080 to my 3090, and I haven't noticed a major difference. But I did notice that NVIDIA Broadcast is a little bit less CPU heavy at times. That's the main benefit.
Okay, Team Fez said, Aiden is quiet, can't really hear him. So I want to adjust your voice before we get started, Aiden. Because you are super loud for me, but that is not working inside. Okay, let me open my volume mixer here. Okay, it's the Zoom meeting I need to turn up. Let's crank that. Okay, do you want to talk now? We'll see if...
Yeah, hopefully this is a little bit better. I actually have my microphone cranked all the way up in terms of sensitivity, so I don't think I could possibly get louder on my end.
It was definitely on my end, I'm sure. Spence Stout says TA is really quiet. Still quiet. Oh
Still
my.
quiet? Oh wow.
Okay, let's see if I can crank it. So you're loud for me, so it's definitely my end. So I've got you the desktop all the way cranked. Let me see. System.
Yeah, I just tried repositioning my microphone.
Okay, try now.
Is this any better? Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Hello, Twitch chat.
Plugged in Gamer says, okay, now I can hear the violin. Turn my own mic volume down. Okay, I can do that. Team Fez says that's a lot better. Okay,
I moved my mouse or my microphone from behind my monitors to in front of it, like right behind my keyboard. But one thing you'll notice, I've actually been typing this entire time. You can't hear any of that. Which, should we just segue into the audio section?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay. So I'm here to teach you guys a little bit about how to set up your audio and whether or not you need a real life mixer or if you can get away with a virtual mixer and sort of your options for doing that. So first and foremost, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you're in luck. You won't have to mess with OBS settings or OBS filters to fix your microphone. Instead, you can just use one of their apps. So the one that I use most frequently is called NVIDIA Broadcast. And NVIDIA Broadcast is basically a whole set of tools that you can use for streaming. The main sort of feature of NVIDIA Broadcast that a lot of people will use is this noise removal. You know, most of us have microphones that are either on our desk or on a boom mic that are very close to our keyboards. So you may start to hear sounds from either a controller or a keyboard, all these other sorts of background noise. Thankfully, NVIDIA Broadcast uses your GPU and it takes away a lot of that noise. This is kind of the main feature, the main reason why people would use it. There are a few other options though. So one of the big ones is the virtual backgrounds. So if you don't have a green screen yourself and you use a normal camera, unlike me, you can use this to immediately kind of remove the entire background and keep in important things like your chair so that it doesn't look like you're just kind of floating in space. But you can use this to overlay yourself over gameplay or set up a background for like a just chatting stream and things like that. The auto frame is another really cool feature that whenever I turn it on crashes my NVIDIA Broadcast, unfortunately, but for most people it works totally fine. But it'll basically do real-time face tracking. So as you move around the scene, your camera will continue to focus on you, and you can set up a sub area of your camera to actually kind of zoom in on that face area, so it'll track you a little bit better. One of the problems that I used to have was that I would move out of frame really easily and my camera would just break entirely. So for NVIDIA Broadcast, if you just Google NVIDIA Broadcast, you can download the app. However, like I said before, the main caveat with NVIDIA Broadcast is that it only works with 20 and 30 series GPUs, which a lot of people don't have. If you're still on one of the older NVIDIA GPUs, you can use this program, RTX Voice, which is the older version of NVIDIA Broadcast that you can still download. One of the benefits of RTX Voice is that it works with literally every card. One of the downsides of RTX Voice is that it's going to be a little bit harder on your CPU and your GPU, and considering that it's running on an older GPU, this can negatively impact your performance. However, what I found is that my stream quality improved significantly when I started using this. So even though it did do about a 3 to 4% CPU performance hit, having no background noise is a huge benefit. Going through clips from a couple of years ago when I didn't use this to now and hearing just the incredibly loud clicking of my keyboard, this is something that you really, really want to look into and see if you can actually use it. So to set up, the first thing that you need to do is update your NVIDIA drivers. If you haven't updated them to the driver that you need for 10.18, you probably haven't updated your drivers in a year and you need to fix that. So go update your NVIDIA drivers as soon as possible. If you do have one of the newer graphics cards, update to the very newest version and download NVIDIA Broadcast. That is the better option. But RTX Voice works with pretty much every app that people use nowadays. OBS Studio, Zoom, Discord. I use it for literally all of my audio that I use here. And the setup is pretty simple. For both programs, as soon as you download it, you can just run the program, no issues. And configuring it is pretty simple. You just click the remove noise button. I think there's like a little slider in NVIDIA Broadcast right here. This little slider notch here. And in this, it's just a checkbox. And most of the time, you'll want to turn up noise suppression to the very maximum. I've noticed that when I turn it down a little bit, some noise gets through. When you turn it up to the maximum, my voice comes through no problem, and all the noise is removed. And that's literally it. That's all that you have to do to remove all the background noise from your microphone. Um, in order to set it up with different devices, you'll just have to change what your input and output devices are in each program. One of the small quirks of NVIDIA RTX Voice is that you do have to have the speakers enabled as well as an audio source. So if you're like me and you disable the speaker source, you'll have to re-enable it every time in your device manager to actually get it to start. Any third-party program equivalent for us AMD peasants. So you can go through OBS Studio with some filters to fix your audio, which Gabe, Checkpoint Professor, is going to go through later. This is just for sort of outside of this. If you're doing like collaborations over Discord or something like that, and you want to make sure that your background noise isn't coming through on other people's streams, this is an option. The next thing that we're going to talk about is sort of the virtual audio cables. So one of the things that you may encounter when you're doing streams is that you'll have sort of your music playing in the background. A lot of us listen to music when we stream, and that's totally fine. But one of the problems on Twitch, especially, is that when you're streaming with music in the background, you leave yourself open to being DMCA struck at any point in time. This is a pretty huge problem for the most part, because once you do hit 3 strikes, your account will be banned. So for smaller streamers, not a huge deal. They're probably not going to issue DMCA strikes on you for the most part. But for larger streamers, you really want to start thinking about how you're going to deal with this. And thankfully, OBS has a tool that allows you to remove audio sources from your Twitch VODs, but you're going to run into a problem. With your default setup, all your audio is probably coming through one device, which is probably your headphones or your speakers, one of those, and you have a microphone. So when you want to capture all of your audio in your VOD, you're either going to be able to choose between just the microphone audio or just the desktop audio. One of the ways around this is to use a virtual audio cable or to use a virtual mixer. This is sort of the default. Oh, you can't hear anything? Okay, my voice is still coming through on the stream as far as I can tell. But yeah, so this is sort of the default version, the virtual audio cables. This is a very old app that basically installs virtual devices that you can sort of connect everything to. This is kind of an ancient setup. It's very complicated to set up, but you can change which devices go to which cable and which cables go to which outputs. By using some of the cables in here as your outputs on Twitch, or on OBS rather, you'll be able to split apart your audio signals in a pretty simple way. Now, this program is very old. It's kind of hard to set up. It's very hard to find information about it. So what I typically recommend is that people look into VB Audio's suite of products, which are similar, but a little bit easier to set up. Do virtual audio cables mess up the audio quality? No. They may add some CPU overhead, but people are not going to be able to notice any dips in audio quality. I believe most of these support up to like 96 kilohertz, 24-bit, like uncompressed audio. And what you're getting on Twitch is 44.1 kilohertz, 16-bit. So no problems there. VB cables are sort of I don't want any extra features. I just want to be able to route my audio to different places. You can buy either a set of 2 cables, which should be good enough for most people, or if you have a lot of different sources that you want to control individually, you can get up to 4 cables, and you can use these to set different outputs. For instance, you could have Discord being output to one channel, your game audio outputting to one channel, your music outputting to one channel, and then your microphone obviously has its own input. Then you can create a composite input with everything but the music and send everything else out to your headphones. By setting this up in OBS, you'll be able to easily create a VOD that leaves out the music while leaving in everything else and having it all super balanced. An even easier solution than this is a program called Voice Meter Banana. This is a bit more expensive. It is a program that is essentially a digital mixer. And what it allows you to do is kind of control every aspect of your audio setup. You can see here you have a lot of different inputs and outputs. You can use hardware inputs such as your microphone, and you can set up virtual inputs to capture all of your different programs on the computer and separate them out to different outputs. It's considered donationware, which, it is free to use, but they do encourage you to support the developers. I personally haven't used Voicemeeter Banana. I do have a few friends who use it. The one complaint that I've seen with Voicemeeter Banana is that it can be very difficult to uninstall once you install it, so please look into that before you decide to use this. However, for most people, Voicemeeter Banana is going to be incredibly useful as it bypasses one of the most expensive purchases that you'll have to make for a streaming setup when you start to kind of go into that more professional side of streaming, which is a hardware mixer. One of the reasons that people go for a mixer is that they either have a very expensive microphone that uses a special type of cable called an XLR cable, or they want to have a little bit more control over the levels of all the different sounds in their stream. You can get around this by using a virtual mixer, which is going to be a lot less expensive, and for most people is a perfectly fine, solution for their problem. Most of us aren't using a hi-fi setup. Most of us don't have an XLR mic, and for the most part, you don't need an XLR mic. I'm currently using a Blue Yeti Snowball, which is a pretty cheap entry-level mic, and the audio quality, while not great on recordings, is perfectly fine for streaming. Using a USB mic, you really don't need to get a full mixer. And one of the big problems with a physical mixer is that there are generally a lot of different knobs and dials that you can mess with to really fine-tune the sound. And if you're not familiar with what all the knobs and dials do, if you accidentally hit one while you're streaming, you could cause some issues to your sound that are going to take hours of troubleshooting to figure out what the problem is. Now, there are some sort of alternatives that are designed for streamers that really simplify this process, like the Go XLR, which only has dials for the 4 separate audio channels, which are like chat, game, music, microphone, and you can mess with those pretty easily. But even at the cheapest price, you're still going to be paying $200 for a mixer like that. And if you're using a USB microphone, you're not going to notice a difference in quality. That being said, if you do want to look into mixers later on, I highly recommend that you look into your options first. If you're not using an XLR mic, stick to Voicemeeter. If you are using an XLR mic, look into a mixing board that is more feature packed than the Go XLR. You'll thank me later. And I think that's just about it in terms of this. We're going to talk about OBS stuff, so I'll pass it back to Checkpoint Professor.
Awesome, Cable. That was jam-packed as usual. Thank you so much. Okay, let me go back and switch our switch you back. All right, we'll have you hanging out in the corner because it's just the right thing to do. Okay.
Sounds good.
And hopefully my audio is coming in through okay. Someone said I was clipping earlier. Hopefully it's better now. Hot tip for audio: ask your viewers how it is. That's usually your first line of defense in audio.
Your viewers always know best. Unless
it's plugged in gamer.
True. Sometimes viewers will come in and they'll give you complaints about your settings. I have a lot of people come in on mobile and complain they can't see my stream, which is because I stream at a high bit rate. So that's always something that you have to keep in mind.
Oh, and there I am. Awesome. Yeah. So welcome everybody. So that was freaking fantastic. Aiden, thank you so much. I guess I should call you Cable online. Cable, that was awesome. Fine. Yeah. So what Aiden talked about was everything going before it hits OBS, really. And if you follow all the stuff that he did and you go through all that kind of that tech, you really don't have to do as much in OBS for sure. I have always used OBS, and admittedly, up until I started teaching this class, I knew enough to get me by, which wasn't always the best. And so it's good for me to review and learn more all the time. Tech is always changing as well. And so one of the things I want to do in this class is at least do an overview of all the filters that are in OBS, even though you most definitely shouldn't use them all. I can't think of a situation where you'd want to use every one of them. You kind of use the ones you need for the situation you're in to get everything sounding to the optimal level or looking at the optimal level. So today we're going to go over all the audio filters as well as all the video filters. So anyone in the audience that has some input or some experience with these filters and has something to add, please feel free to put it in the chat and I will read it, as well as Aiden, who has been streaming for, how many years have you been streaming now?
9 years. This November, it's going to be 10 years.
What? That is awesome. So for me, it's been 2 years, so I'm excited to have Aiden in here to talk about his experience as well. Okay, so let's get started with this. Before we get started, I will share this in the chat as well as on Canvas at School. This is the filters guide for OBS. It's the OBS project wiki, and it kind of has everything that we're going to go over with today. But for me personally, it's I always learn more if I am actually shown like where the software is or where all the bells and whistles are located. Otherwise, they are just names and letters to me, and they don't mean as much. So we're going to actually open up OBS and fiddle around with these a little bit and kind of talk and show what each of them do so we can visually see how they work. Okay, so let's, everyone can see and hear okay? Okay, so we're going to pop up OBS Studio. And I'm going to get a drink first because I'm losing my voice. It's been about 12 hours of online teaching today, so my voice starts to leave. You got to keep hydrated, kids. Okay, so this is cool. So OBS is up. Can everyone see that the audio bar is already moving? That is because, and I'll show it to you really quick. I have right here, this is the webcam I'm using for this session. So I have a second PC set up so that we can kind of do an overview of OBS without it messing up the stream that we're currently on. And maybe we'll learn a few things, or a thing or two. So I'm using the Logitech, it's got a name on it. Carl Zeiss Tesser HD 1080p Logitech. I think it's just like the what is it, the C922 is what it's called. Just the basic, it's kind of the go-to standard streaming budget webcam. Okay, the first thing we want to do is what are you guys thinking? Should we take a look at the audio or video first? Any preferences? I'm trying to get the chat working. Audio. Okay, Scruffy, we're going to do some audio first. Video, audio. Yes! At least everyone's chatting. It makes me feel listened to. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, here we go. And if Brian Salisbury's not here anymore, I'm going to be devastated. But we will keep going. Okay, so looks like audio is the winner by far. So what as a class, what do you think is more important, audio or video? Yega Dark Mode says audio. Audio. Thank you, Chompy. Why audio? By the way, is your audio quality supposed to be kind of bad right now? It's not supposed to be, but sometimes it has issues. I apologize. When I get really loud, the quality drops. I'm a yeller. No, so as I was going over all this, I did adjust the compressor filter, which we'll go over in just a minute. And so it caps out it's supposed to cap out a certain audio level, and it's probably messing up. Let's go with that, Pastel Knave. I'm trying to demonstrate. I am demonstrating. Okay, we will get that fixed. This is why we have Pastel. Are you, just out of curiosity, are you in my class?
I believe they are. Okay,
cool. No, so that's great. I was going to tell you that's exactly why we have the journal class, the journal studies, is so that afterwards I can watch this and be like, oh, I can't believe I messed up my my settings. I'm not going to lie to you. I really need to hop into this, but I also have little kids that like to come to my office and touch everything. Drives me nuts. Okay, let's get started. So let's start in by adding an audio input, and we'll start playing around with some of the filters. So we're just going to hit positive here and go through all of our selections here. So to get audio input, it's pretty straightforward. You just go to audio input capture right here at the top. Plugged in gamer, unintentional intention. That's right. And we're going to call this Logi Audio because it's coming from my webcam. Because we want to, name everything. And coming from the microphone of the HD Pro webcam. So now you can see the audio bar here going back and forth. So for anyone listening, and for Aiden, where do you want this? Where do you want the audio bar to kind of be hitting? What's the optimal spot here if you're just looking at it visually?
I usually try to keep mine in the yellow zone when I'm talking normally, and at the maximum, like at the low end of the red, I try to keep everything kind of quieter for the most part, just because I find that a little bit more manageable and I can avoid clipping.
Right. So a lot of like what I've heard too is you want it at about -3 decibels is kind of like just like you said, the early part of the red. So if I'm going 1, 2, 3, you can see I'm hitting a little bit high, right? So let's check out some of the filters with this. The first one, we're just going to go right down the line here. Filters. If you hit positive, so I'm going to do that again just so I can explain it. So I'm right clicking on the Logi Audio that I just inputted. If I right click right here at the bottom, there's a filters and a properties. We're going to click on filters. Properties is good if you want to actually switch the input that's coming in, but we're going to click on filters. And you can see by default, our filter section is blank. And we want to add some filters for this. So we are going to select a compressor. And we'll just leave it. That's the name is compressor. So what does the compressor do? Cable, what's a compressor?
A compressor basically takes any sort of loud sounds and kind of normalizes them to be a little bit quieter. It can help you keep a very stable noise level, especially when you do something like if you're playing a horror game, for instance, screaming. It'll prevent it from blowing out everyone's eardrums.
Right. And I yell a lot when I'm playing Mario Maker. And so that's something I really need is a compressor, right? So when I scream, my chat gets upset with me because they have to take their earphones off and then they leave my stream and never come back. It's a sad thing, but it happens. Okay, so if we're going to adjust the compressor here, these defaults will kind of get you set up to where you need to be. So if you notice now, like I'm talking really loud, and you remember without the compressor, it was going up into the decibel zone. So even just at the defaults, if I yell, let's try this. This isn't, the audio is not going to match what you're hearing, but if you look at just the right here on the Logi Audio on this OBS screen, you'll notice that I'm not really going up into the red anymore, right? So just by default, that has put me in a pretty good spot, but let's turn it off. So now you see when I turn it off, if I were to yell, I'm redding the whole thing out, right? Ah! Did that hurt everyone's ears? Yes, good. I hope so. No, I don't hope so. I'm sorry if I did. Compresses. Yes, it compresses. So it takes all the high audio and it compresses it down. And so there's some things to check into. Like I said, this is going to be a quick overview. I didn't realize how much time this would actually take to shoot through all of these. So we're going to go through all of them, though, and Aiden's going to help me briefly summarize every one of those. The link will be on the thing, but the goal is that everyone in this class, as we go into our 11 to 20 streams, has an idea of what and where all these are located. So if you're having these issues, hopefully you've taken some notes and you can go back and look it up and find out the exact ways to adjust it. Turkey Time, she says, hello, radio person. So we're going to turn that compressor back on. You can see by magic, it's actually in a good spot. So the compressor will actually compress all of your audio just a little bit too. And so some people like to adjust, if it compresses you too far, makes you too soft, they'll take the output gain and actually push that a little bit up. So you can see now I push it up just a little bit, and now normally talking, it's kind of at that -3 zone, but maybe still a little bit higher than I want to be. So we'll just probably just leave that at 0, and I hit enter. So I just X'd that out. I didn't mean to. Let me get my filter back up. Aiden, really quick, is there anything else to add about compressor?
Finding the right settings for a compressor can be a little difficult. You may want to look online just to try to find some presets for it and try those instead.
Yeah.
If you're not super familiar with audio engineering, it can be a little bit daunting to see all of the settings right there.
So I am a bit of a noob to it as well. Ratio kind of adjusts the level. I know the threshold is kind of the height you're looking for, right? Where you want it to go up to. And then attack is how quickly it kind of fixes itself if it goes up and over. But like I said, there's some really good YouTube videos that they show like really good optimal settings. But by default, I've heard a lot of people say the default works pretty well. And then there's a lot of YouTubers who say that the defaults are trash. But as you can already see, the defaults have made my audio fit within that yellow bar a lot better than they had before. Yoga Darkmode said audio clipping is back hard. Maybe try compressor on your stream audio. This is why people get really nervous, like talking about some of these things and then using them. So yes, I apologize for my clipping. I will try to fix it. I might have the microphone too close to my face right now, but I'll definitely try to adjust that as we go. Okay, so that's compressor. The next one we're going to take a look at is expander. So this kind of sounds like the opposite of compressor. What does an expander do, Aiden?
So an expander is literally the opposite of a compressor. It will lower the volume of sounds, but instead of the sounds above a threshold, it'll lower the sounds below a threshold. So any sort of background noise or anything will get cut out.
Yep. So what kind of background noise would we want to cut out?
This is usually used for like very quiet background noise. So if you have people talking in the background, or say it's raining outside and that's picking up on your microphone, something like that.
Yep. Or desktop fans.
Yeah.
Yep. So I remember when I was new to streaming, I had another TA who had been streaming for a long time. I'm always blessed to have TAs that have some serious experience with game streaming to help me out with these classes as we kick it off. But we opened up a streaming lab at the U, and it was a small room, and I was super nervous about it because it had some open ductwork up top. And when the AC kicked on, it was actually a little bit kind of loud in there, right? But my TA was like, yeah, don't worry about it. You can just use like the expander or like a noise gate and cut it right out. Sure enough, it was a low level hum, and we were able to remove it from the audio really easily. And so you use the expander or some of the other filters we're going to look at to kind of remove those background noises. So Yoga Darkmode said, is this similar to a noise gate?
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly the same thing.
Yep. I think one of the differences, so you have like, I think it will actually adjust it dynamically, right? So you can adjust the attack mode so when it comes back and kind of smooths it out. Mm-hmm. Unless I'm mistaken. Okay, so let's go to the next one. We'll look at some of the noise gates. So the gain, this one should be pretty quick. What does the gain do?
Yeah, gain just basically takes the signal and makes it louder. You really shouldn't be using gain inside of OBS Studio. You should be adjusting that on the actual device itself. But if you really need to make it louder, you can just use gain. Yeah,
so when you're hearing me clip out right now, it's probably because my gain got twisted on my microphone right here, and it's on the bottom side, and I'd have to twist it underneath it. So it's my 2-year-old's favorite thing is to twist all the knobs everywhere. But yeah, you want to adjust this like on your audio device if possible, on your microphone. But something like the webcam, like I'm using for this, doesn't have a gain option, right? So let's try cranking this gain up, and you can see right there, it just basically increased the audio to where if this was live and I was using this, you can see that it's all red. That means it's way too loud and probably not fun to listen to, right? So we adjust that back down on the slider. You can see I can scoot the gain well down below and just kind of inch it right back up to the center to where it's right in the yellow mark again. So it's the volume. The gain is the volume. Okay, so let's look at the next one. So we have invert polarity. I actually don't know what this one is.
If you don't know what it is, you'll probably never have to use it.
So I know the technical definition is that it's used to correct phase cancellation issues. So let's check. No properties available. Okay. So we'll just remove that one. If you want to look it up, go ahead. Just remember that it's theirs. If you ever come up with some phase cancellation issues, that's the ticket right there.
Yeah, you'll only really need that if you have a multiple microphone setup, and if you're Twitch streaming, why?
That's true. Well, I guess if you were doing like a podcast type, well, even then you'd use one microphone, talking between two people. Okay, limiter. What does a limiter do?
Yeah, so a limiter is basically a compressor that is designed to prevent you from peaking. It should usually be the last thing that you add as a filter. And this is just in case like you get incredibly loud and your compressor's not doing enough. This will stop it from clipping.
Yeah, so everyone says I'm clipping right now on the stream here. I actually just lowered my volume a little bit. So hopefully that fixes it. I've been having some audio issues. I actually need to reset and go through all this stuff as well. Scruffy says people who use lav mics might want to use it, the limiter.
I think that's for the invert polarity.
Oh, invert polarity is sweet. Thank you, Scruffy. Thank you. So that's the limiter, very similar to the compressor. You'll probably find that a lot of these filters are very similar. They just have different nuances as we go forward. So after the limiter, we've got the noise gate. All right. So Aiden, what is the noise gate?
Noise gate is really similar to the expander.
Yep.
It's basically just designed to remove background noise while you're talking. The noise gate, I think, has a little bit less setup that you need to do.
Yeah.
You just set a threshold where it's going to cut out all noise below it, and then a threshold where it's like, okay, whatever, let the sound through.
Yeah, I think when I've heard of like people just beginning to learn how to set up their audio, usually I hear that they're directed to the noise gate over the expander because it is easier to set up and you can kind of set that exact bar for anything below this decibel level. You just won't hear it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the noise gate, similar to the expander, and then we have the noise suppression.
Yeah, I think noise suppression is essentially the same thing as a noise gate, but it's like dynamic. So instead of having to set it up the way that you normally would, you just put it on there and hopefully it works.
Yeah, I don't trust anything that I don't have adjustment for. So I think with everything we've seen before, you can probably pinpoint exactly where you want the suppression. I have this issue like with other software where you use noise reduction software. I think for the most part it works pretty good, but then you'll have these standout issues where things will get kind of messed up. But yeah.
I believe the noise suppression in OBS uses the same one that you use inside of Discord, and anyone who's tried that knows that it absolutely eviscerates your audio quality.
Okay. So don't use that one, but be glad that you know it's there. Okay. Next on the list, let's see what the last one is, and I'm gonna let Cable carry this one. What are the VST plugins?
So VST plugins are plugins that are typically designed for like digital audio workstations. So if you have any sort of compressors or other plugins like that you want to use, you can also input like auto tune or something like that using the VST plugin feature, and other sort of more advanced compressors. For instance, I can use an equalizer from Reaper, the digital audio workstation, inside OBS using the VST plugins.
Okay.
But
so when I had studied up on this one this week, I was like, okay, this isn't something we need to cover in class. But now that you said that I can auto tune my voice with it, you piqued my interest. So now I know what I'm going to do this weekend. I'm going to do
just be aware of how much auto tune costs.
Oh, is it pretty expensive?
It's about $400 for a personal license.
I know what I'm not going to be doing this weekend. There are any free third-party auto tuners?
I think there are some. I haven't tried any.
Okay.
I have an Antares auto tune license.
Oh, you do?
So yeah, I used to be big on music production, so I bought a bunch of VSTs and now I use pretty much none of them.
Oh, I am impressed. So that sounds like another topic for a class. Okay, so very cool. So my job is to find a free auto tuner. If anyone in the chat wants to help me out, send me the links, send me the hot links. So that covers all the audio filters. The chat has been pretty quiet. Does anyone have any questions? Does this all make sense? Do you want us to chat about any of them in more depth? Okay, 3 Mentor asks when I will become a VTuber. Tomorrow. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so that is a lot of audio stuff. Look how this is using my webcam audio. Look how slick that is. That's right at the optimum level. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Okay, so let's talk about video now. So none of the class has any questions. Plugged In Gamer says if we find a third-party auto tuner, do we get extra credit? Absolutely. You don't even have to ask.
I'm sorry, but I've beaten them to it.
Oh, snap! My TA gets extra credit. Okay, we have to look at this. Copy, let's see if this works. Copy this link address.
Looks like there's a few different alternatives, ranging from very simple to use to significantly more complex.
Okay, free auto-tune VST plugins. I have to try this now. So for a streamer, how annoying would it be for them to just use an auto-tune voice?
I think it would be pretty funny. I actually know a few people who use like vocoders and filters on their voices while they're talking. You can use it for privacy if you don't want people to recognize your voice, or you can use it to get an intended effect. I have one friend who has a VTuber avatar that has like a Daft Punk style mask on, so they use a auto-tune vocoder effect on their voice.
Okay, I'm kind of excited now. This is going to be fun to check out. So special auto-tune stream coming up soon while I set this up. It's going to be great. Okay, let's proceed. So we're back into OBS here. We want to play around with some of the video plugins. Basically, we've done every single audio filter that is usable, right?
I think that's literally all of them.
Okay. And it's hard to tell what it would actually sound like, but my guess is I should do a test after we're done and see how this records. In fact, we're going to do this. I'm going to do a sample here for you. Actually, let's do this. What we'll do is we'll get the video set up cable, and then I can actually record like 5 minutes of the footage of me talking. We'll see how it actually sounds. I wish I'd been recording while we were doing this, actually. I'm kind of kicking myself. You know what? We'll just start recording now. Oh, I haven't added any video session. You'll only be outputting a blank screen. That's okay. So we're recording a blank screen right now. Let's set up some video. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit the plus button and set up a video capture device. And we'll call this the Logi. We'll call it Logi Video to stick with our naming conventions. It should be a capital V. So the other one was a capital A. That way everything is orderly. Okay, so look at this. So here is our HD Pro webcam C920. And it's pretty tiny on here. Let's check out our settings here. Device default, resolution. Set up a custom resolution. What resolution do we want? It says it does HD. So is that 1920?
I think keeping the default will usually work. 1920 by 1080 is full HD, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just go with this. And you can see it's showing everything in color. I've got like a stand. Okay, just ignore that. Okay, so here we go. So this is interesting. So on this camera on my screen right now, it's using my Razer with a built-in light. And here's the Logitech. Do you guys see any color differences right off the bat?
There's definitely some color differences, yeah.
Yeah, so I would like to see my actual webcam looks a little bit crisper, does it not?
I think so.
Okay. It's interesting. I think they're very similar. Logitech. I'm using the Razer with a little rim light on it, or a little ring light. But I think they're similar actual cameras inside them. But the other one, it does seem a little bit brighter. But let's play around with some of the settings. It's faded on the OBS. Let's see if we can fix it a little bit today. So let's start playing around with some of the filters. and see what we can do. So we're going to start with the top, kind of like what we did with the audio. We're going to go through all of them and see what they do. So we're going to go to filters, and the first one, or first option here is apply LUT. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, so an LUT is a lookup table, which you can use for color grading. So
yeah,
it'll basically take the existing colors in your video and then change those colors to a different set of colors. There are some free ones available on the OBS website, but you know.
So before class, I found this one right here for free. I don't know what's going to do. So my understanding is it'll take like the colors from the image and adjust those and kind of dynamically create some dramatic effects to those colors. So it should kind of hopefully fix some of the faded issues, right?
Hopefully.
We'll see what it does. But the idea of this is a LUT image that you're seeing there. Definitely, if you want to know more about them, do some searches. I had never used this before, so this is going to be fun. Let's grab that LUT image that I had placed. Oh, look, it already has some preset ones. So if you just open it up, OBS has free presets. So we could do the original, poster eyes, red isolated, teal lows, orange highs. Let's try the original. So we open that, set that up, and then there's this threshold. I don't really see a difference, do you?
I don't think original will apply much of a difference.
Okay,
I think you would need to use one of the more pronounced ones.
Okay. Oh, so this actually, look at that. That actually, wait, does that increase it or decrease it?
So lowering it, I think, decreases it, and 0 means that it's not doing any lookups, and 1 I think is much stronger.
Didn't like that. Okay, let's try this one. So look at that. Oh, this is neat. So it pulled out the reds, right, and pushed back everything else. Okay, so let's look at let's check out the one that I downloaded. Okay, so this is the one I downloaded. So let's see if it makes a difference. So let's hit close. Let's open that back up. Does it look any brighter? Let's find out. So let's turn off the LUT. I don't know. I can't really tell a difference.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to cause many drastic differences. Okay. Most of the time when I see LUTs being used is for like HDR color and things like that for pre-rendered videos. So
definitely look it up. I would love to hear how you guys make it work. How fortunate you're wearing red to test that one. Okay, so let's go down the list. Let's see how we can improve this. So next filter we're going to try out is, well, because it's next on the list, is chroma key. So let's talk about chroma key, and I think we could talk about 3 different keys here. There's the chroma key and the color key and the luma key. Cable, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you know the differences between those?
Color key and chroma key I know are very similar. I think color key is used for like a very specific color, whereas chroma key gets like a range. I think that's the difference. A luma key, I'm not entirely sure of. That might be for luminance. Yeah,
so luma is like, from my understanding, this is the way it was kind of explained. I was looking up for the information on it. I think you're spot on. So color key is like the full RGB spectrum, full color spectrum. So you choose any color and it's going to use that, right? Very similar to chroma. Chroma is more like just using like one of those pieces, right? So it's either like red, green, or blue. So it kind of uses the spectrum of a full color. So so chroma key is better for like my background because it's kind of a variation of greens. So you want to use the chroma. So it kind of grabs that whole list. Color would work great like on movie sets where it's just a flat green or a really flat blue where it's just one single solid color. You would use that. And then my understanding is luma is kind of like the grayscale. So you're choosing tone in that. So we don't need to go into all of those, but we could jump into chroma really quick and get that one set up because I do have a screen behind me. You can see here in the preview, it doesn't show what is behind you. It just kind of grays it out. But you can see just by default, it's not too bad If you look over here on the side of me, that's because it's seeing the side of my green screen, right? So I'd either adjust that or crop that out. But because I put the webcam in a different spot, you can see that. So in here, definitely, if you want to know more about the chroma key, look at all these: the similarity, the smoothness, the color reduction, opacity. Those, you can tune that in so that it will get as much of that green screen out. The more you mess with those, the more it will kind of cut into you, right? So your similarity, if I start moving that, you can see it'll start to fade me out. Where you can see red is the least similar, and this is like Ghost Boy. It's like taking my teeth out too. That's awesome. But until I'm kind of gone, so you can see on the spectrum, the red would be the further away. So it kind of adjusts the similar items as you adjust that. I think it was at 0 was the default. No, maybe
I think it's a little higher than 0. You can actually hit defaults at the bottom and it'll.
I think you're right.
Set it back.
Let's fix that. I keep hitting enter. Don't do that. Okay. So let's go back to the defaults. Yeah, default was 400 actually, which it seems pretty solid right here. Same with the brightness and the gamma. You can adjust all those on the chroma key. So you can see it's lightening the whole thing, which includes me. Doesn't really look that great. But you can use that. I say just kind of finesse those numbers as best you can. And the color range, you can adjust. Like if you want a different color, you can choose green, blue, or magenta, or a custom one where you can actually use the color picker and choose the color you want to use. So it doesn't have to be green. They call it a green screen because predominantly people use a green background because typically people use less green, but it's either green or blue typically. You know, if you use red, then you wouldn't be able to see. I would be a floating head right now. Okay, switch back to the defaults and hit close on that. And you can see it's still just dark behind me. So to really make the chroma key work, we need a background image to be behind me so it looks like I'm in front of something, right? So we're just going to add an image real quick. We'll name this background. Hit OK. And we'll find us an image. I saved some bricks because why not? So here's my image here. And we will move that behind my camera, just like in Photoshop. You want to drop it below. And I'm just going to stretch this out. So transform, fit to screen. We'll actually put that behind me. Not very well, though. So I'm going to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, fit to screen kind of ignores, I think, the aspect ratio.
That's awesome. Okay. But there we go. We figured it out. Kind of. Let me stretch this out some more. There we go. Yeah, so now I'm like outside talking to you guys next to a brick wall. Pretty cool, right? Okay. So let's, does that make sense to everyone? The whole green screen chroma key thing. Okay. We'll assume it does. If you have any questions or want to chip in, please chat or put it in the chat. Okay, so here we go. We're still trying to get myself brighter and warmer, like the camera below. We're going to see if we can fix that on a less expensive webcam. So let's go next and see what filters we have on the video. Okay, after chroma key, we have color correction. This seems like it may be helpful. Let's try it out. So color. Yeah, go ahead.
Color correction offers a lot of the same features. You know, you can change the brightness, the gamma, all sorts of those things, but you can also shift the hues in the entire image. So if you wanted to like make yourself turn green, you could do that just by dragging that knob.
Let's try. Yeah, so purple. Look at my lips are blue. That is interesting. And that might actually be kind of fun on a stream, right? So you're not happy with the red shirt you wore today and you want it to be blue. Guess what? You can do that in OBS. It does change you blue too. Like I look like I'm like freezing cold right now. I'm going to switch back to the defaults here. It's not switching back. Why?
You can just set it back to 0 for hue shift.
Look at my eyes. They're yellow. Okay. Filters. We're going to go back. We're going to go back to color correction. There we go. Whew, that felt really weird. So let's see. Gamma. What does gamma do? That's like the kind of makes me look overblown a little bit. So look at that. So I was a little bit faded, so I can adjust the gamma down just a little bit. And already I think I'm looking a little bit closer to the one below, right?
Yeah, I think lower gamma, slightly higher contrast, slightly higher brightness, and maybe turning up the saturation a little bit
Okay,
will probably get you there.
slightly higher and brightness a little bit. And you say higher saturation?
I think so. The camera on like your normal camera is definitely a lot more colorful.
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay, so let me know. Does this look any closer?
A little bit.
A little bit. So we're getting there. So you can see, like, even with a less expensive camera, there are adjustments you can make to make it look better, right? A little bit more contrast. I like that. I like that. We're gonna saturate it just a little bit. Now my shirt's getting pretty bright. Okay, we'll go with this. We'll leave that and we'll see what else we can improve here. All right, next on the list, let's choose another one. I keep hitting out enter. I'm sorry. Oh, because I'm closing it down here. Okay, let's go to crop and pad.
So those are pretty much self-explanatory. Crop allows you to crop the image to, just a smaller portion of the image. Pad allows you to add extra space around the outside to kind of offset the image.
Right.
I can't really think of a reason why you would want to use pad in, OBS generally, but crop is definitely useful. I use it to show like my Spotify now playing.
Oh, cool. So if I want to cut off this this chair that's sitting off the side with the game controller on it, right? So ideally that would be the left side, and we would
I think
adjust.
you want to go like left 200 maybe.
So left 200. And you see it moved it quite a bit. So let's try left 300, left 400. And it's all doing relative. So you can see there I was able to crop off that little bench. And you can see over here on this side, on the right, there's just a little bit where my screen is showing. So I'm gonna clip that off too. So I'm gonna try 100 maybe. There we go. So 100 on that side. And then we're gonna hit close on that. Okay. See how that looks. So now I can move the whole thing over, and now it's cropped and I don't have those green screen issues going off the side. My hand gets cut off though. I'm not able to do all the way over. Plugged In Gamer said I've been messing with broadcast and the auto frame is really cool. Oh, that's cool. So on this as well, the Logitech Video, another thing you can do that I usually use is if you hold down Alt and grab the control bars, you can actually crop it manually, which for me, it's a little bit easier than that cropping tool. So you can see right here, actually that's fascinating. So Aiden, the cropping filter kind of hard crops it.
Yeah, it does. It's super useful for like when you have screens that you want to like change the crop on over time, but I have run into issues with it in the past. But specifically, Spotify and Minecraft do not get along, which is a very strange interaction. So for anyone in chat who wants to stream Minecraft, don't capture Spotify at the same time. Your mouse cursor will disappear.
Oh, wild. Okay. Very interesting. So you can see on that, if you hold down Alt, I could have adjusted this just like manually, but in the filter, that will hard crop it. So you don't have to worry about it being reset or anything. So that keeps it all uniform to that cropping setup that you had inside. So that's super helpful. Actually, it took me a long time to learn that with streaming, and it always frustrated me. And then I found it out, and it was so simple. So for those of you that needed that, you're welcome. For those of you who are wondering what took me so long to learn it, you're welcome too. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Next filter, crop and pad, and then we have image mask blend. So what can you tell us about this one?
Yeah, so image mask and the blend allows you to basically take one image that you have and apply a filter around the outside so that some portions of it will go around. So if you wanted to add like a round border to your webcam, you take an image that is, just a white circle in the middle of a black background and apply that mask to it. And then you'll have basically a circular webcam.
Yeah, let's see if I can find a free one. So we'll use this one actually. This is a visual example of what it does. So you see right here in the corner, you have this mushroom. So they're putting this masking image over it through this filter. So you can see the black means you can see through it. White is 100% visible. And then they faded the edges. So you can do things like this, where if I wanted to be rounded, and actually, let's grab this one. That one looks like it's kind of broken. Is that the whole thing? Oh, it's not even showing the whole thing. I thought I could find a free one real quick. Here's one. Let's see if this will work. We'll just call it mask. Bada bing, bada boom. Save it to the desktop. For now, okay, let's try this out. There we go. So right there, you can see I can mask out, so you can just see my head, right, and my shoulders sticking out there, because it's not masked out to the right size. But now, right, I should be able to hit OK. I close on that, and you can see now I'm masked out. So you can see like the interesting things you could do with this. This is the same thing that like 3D Mentor uses on his stream to mask out his face inside his little logo. But a lot of things you can do with that. Okay, here we go. Let's do the next one, shall we? Going down the line. Okay, so Luma key, we talked about that. Render delay. What can you tell me about that, Aiden?
Render delay?
Yeah.
I believe that'll just like add a bit of delay to your video. So if your lip sync isn't working, you can delay it to match your sound.
Oh, I think it's actually delaying me. Yeah, and I've heard this is good if you're using like some video capture like cards and software that can cause issues. This causes a delay to kind of fix it. I don't know. I haven't had to use it, so I'm not as familiar with it. But it is there if anyone wants to look it up. So it's one you probably don't need to worry about. But I've added it. Okay, let's look. So under render delay, scaling and aspect ratio. So I've never really used this either, but it's point, bilinear, bicubic, Lancos, area. So kind of like the same kind of filters you'd have in Photoshop. Have you ever had to run into these, Cable?
No, but if you use like an ultra wide monitor, this can help you kind of undistort your image a little bit or fit it better onto a standard stream canvas.
Yes, that makes sense then. So this is like when you reduce images in Photoshop and you actually want it to look like the original image that you had. So this helps filter and make it look better. So yeah, that's a good one. So this is for, I hear about stuff like that happening all the time when people have huge like 4K monitors or gaming monitors that are spread across and have weird aspect ratios, right? But we'll just leave it on Lancos for fun. I don't think that'll do anything. But we're going through all the filters today because we want this to look amazing, right? So I don't recommend you use all the filters. Only use what you need, by the way. We're just doing this just to show where they all are. Aiden uses all of the filters for his VTubing, but I don't recommend it.
I actually use none of them.
Okay. Let's look at scroll.
Scroll is a bit of a weird one. It basically allows you to kind of offset where in the image you're going. I think it also animates it over time. So, it'll basically add a scrolling effect. So it'll look like you're moving across the image over time.
Yes, I love it. So there you go, my friends. This is probably something you want while you're game streaming, right? You want this floating head moving across your game?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. So, yes. Okay, let's go to the next one. Oops. Last but not least, we have sharpen. And this probably just makes sense too. This is just like in Photoshop, if you have a blurry image or maybe your webcam is a little blurry, and no matter how much you adjust that autofocus, it's just showing a little bit blurry. You can adjust the sharpness just like you can in Photoshop or anything else. But if you over sharpen, you can see that I start to look pixelated and over sharpened and creepy. So we're going to adjust that back down because I didn't, opposite, it gets kind of blurry, but we didn't need it. All right. Now I feel like I need to make sure that I go all the way across like Pac-Man so this is the perfect video. All right, everybody. So that is, in a nutshell, that's a preview of all of the audio filters and all of the video filters for OBS. And I'm not going to lie, looking at this OBS screen right now, I feel like I'm going to throw up a little bit.
It could be worse.
It could be worse. I could speed it up quite a bit, right? But actually, I think that the scrolling, so you could, instead of your face, you could add a PNG or a texture that has a blank background, transparent background. So this would be great for like sending a message like billboard style across the bottom of your screen, or anything you want to turn on and turn off to have some kind of cool effect within your stream. Snow Cactus says looking good. Plugged In Gamer says it's perfect. Hopefully this has been a beneficial overview for you. I know some of you are very familiar with a lot of the aspects of OBS, but I pretty much can guarantee for a lot of you this is brand new. So hopefully it helps you, especially as we go in the next 10 streams. So you can get an idea if you have some issues with your video or your audio, or things just aren't looking right. Hopefully this kind of gives you a good starting point of where to go attack those issues to get your stream looking the best it can. Later on, we'll be talking about overlays and emotes and some of the more other special visual stuff that you put over this within OBS as well, that a lot of the stuff we learn right now will all come into play with that kind of stuff. Plugged In Gamer says making your viewers sick is the highest point of immersion. Yogi Dark Mode says works for text too, probably. Absolutely. In fact, let's do that really quick. We'll add some text. And say text. We'll just say hello. And yeah, so you can just add text and say subscribe. I know you want to. Don't subscribe to me, by the way. I just thought that sounded funny. Okay, so then we could add this text, right? And the same kind of thing. We can add that same filter to it, the scroll filter. Hit OK, and we can speed that up, right? Actually, let's speed it the opposite direction so it makes us super nauseous. And there's no space at the end of it, so that's awesome. Oh, so this is where I really make no, Plugged In Gamer, don't do it. You can subscribe to one of your fellow classmates. Okay, you need a space at the end. Okay. Okay, there we go. So these are some effects to really mess up with your viewers. One of the things we wanted to, I'm going to turn that off. One of the things we wanted to talk about was, we talked about going through OBS to adjust your audio for DMCA purposes. Aiden, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, so for that, you'll want to go into the actual OBS settings. So for most people, you'll only have two audio sources. You'll have your desktop audio and your microphone. If you set up a different audio source, you'll have a few different audio sources, but for the most part, people have two audio sources. So if you hit settings in the bottom right.
Okay, I just had to do that. Okay. Settings in the bottom right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then head to output. Output's going to be the most important one.
Okay.
So by default, in streaming, you may have to go to advanced mode for this rather than simple. So you'll have to stop the recording.
Oh, sad. Okay, no problem. Yes. So we'll add that to the class so you can see how the audio actually turned out. I don't know with just the webcam audio. I'm curious. Okay, so let's go to settings again. Output. We want to go to advanced.
Yep. And so you'll have a few different audio tracks there under streaming. By
Okay.
default, your audio track for streaming is going to be track one. But what people don't really know about is that your other audio devices by default will be on different audio tracks. So when you check the Twitch VOD track button, there should be a little checkbox there. You can change which audio output goes to your Twitch VOD.
Oh, wild. Okay.
Yeah. By default, your audio will be on 3, your microphone audio.
Uh-huh.
So you can use that to just kind of set up everything there.
Okay. So if you use track 2, like you could set, are you saying to use like what would you set up there instead of the game music?
So what you'd want to do is using one of the other solutions that we talked about, either the virtual audio cables or voice meter, you'd want to create a output that has everything that you need without including the music, right? And what you do is you'd end up having that on the Twitch VOD track, and you'd have your typical audio track, number 1 set for everything else. So it would combine all of your audio tracks.
Okay. No, that's really cool. So is there any more we can go deeper into this, or is this just kind of?
I think yeah. So if you go into your advanced audio settings, so once you're done with this, you can hit OK.
Okay.
You don't even have to create a composite audio setting. You can actually choose what audio goes to which tracks. So if you click on the little gear next to your audio,
like
then hit advanced audio properties.
Okay.
You'll be able to see a list of tracks towards the end of that.
Oh, awesome.
1 through 6. And you can choose which audio goes to which tracks. So if you're able to separate out your music to a separate track, you can have that only outputting on, say, track 2 or track 3, and then set up your recordings to only include certain tracks, or set up your Twitch audio to only include one of those tracks. So if you include everything but your music on track 1, you can use that as the Twitch VOD track.
So by default, it's filtering out to every track, right? So if I wanted to separate the desktop and my voice, right, I could do something like this. So like the desktop would be on 1, my voice is on 2. Is that kind of what you're saying?
So you want to keep everything on 1 by default, just because 1 is the default. So then I usually keep my desktop audio on 2 as well, and my microphone on 3.
Okay.
And then for recordings, I'll just include tracks 2 and 3, so I get them separately.
That is awesome. That is really good to know. So that's actually a lot of control. So you can do that not only for streaming, but you could adjust that for your local recording as well.
Yeah, that's on a different page. But if you go into settings and then output again, under the recording tab, you can actually choose which tracks you want to include.
Oh, very cool. So the same thing. So if I wanted just the desktop and then my audio, it would be 1 and 3, right?
So 1 is your composite. So you'd want to get 2 and 3.
Right. So it doesn't use the game stuff. Okay. That is awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, and that'll also allow you to change, like, if you record clips and stuff locally that you want to edit for YouTube videos and things like that, you can adjust the audio then by track. And you can even cut out sections while including other parts of it.
Yeah, I could see how that would be handy if you're playing games that have they have like a radio playing or something like that. This would also allow you, right? Because it's just your VODs that you get in trouble for, or am I mistaken on that?
They're looking into ways to DMCA people who are live with music in the background. In fact, we saw an example of that with the BlizzCon stream where the Metallica audio had to be muted in real time by Twitch to avoid them taking down their own stream.
Oh, that's right.
Automatically, which DMCA is being used rampantly, but most of the time you won't be taken down live. I haven't seen any streamer that isn't a massive partner get taken down live, just because they can't monitor every single stream. Yeah,
I would love, like, maybe on the Discord we could set up like a copyright-free kind of Twitch-friendly music list. I'd be curious to what else is out there. I've been using Harris Heller's like Stream Beats on Spotify, and it's just so full of ads that I can't stand it. So it'd be interesting to get some other ones.
Yeah, I have my own playlist that I use that I went through a bunch of different record labels that had posted on Twitter about, they're not going to DMCA people on Twitch. You can use our music, you can listen to it free, and basically set up a playlist of all of my favorites in there.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That's mostly rock music for the most part, rock focused, but there are definitely playlists out there for others as well.
Yeah, we should definitely chat about that. Well, awesome. Okay, Aiden, thank you so much for your help today. It's been fun as usual. It's actually kind of entertaining to go through all of those filters, at least to give a review to everybody. Gamma Ray says, even if you deleted the VODs, your stuff is stored on Twitch's side and can be struck. Really? Even if it's all gone? Wow. Plugged in Gamer says 99 Lives has free Twitch friendly music. Let's make a link in Discord. I will make it right now. Plugged in Gamer and anyone else, I would love some of those links. Does anyone have any questions before we end this stream? I went over the homework for next week. We're starting the next 10 streams. So your first 10 streams should have been due today. Same thing, same kind of idea. We're just like going a little bit more in detail, thinking more about refining our production value this next 10 streams. So that's kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about, including like today's presentation of going through all the filters to see how we can fine tune and adjust our video and audio to make it better. More expensive equipment is nice, but you really don't need, when you're starting out, really expensive equipment. You want to get the most out of the equipment you have. And all those filters and adjustments we went over will help you do that. And I think what we'll do is we'll put a section in the Discord as well, because there are a lot of like 3-minute YouTube videos and other videos that go through like fine tuning a lot of the filters we went over today that can help you set those up really fast. Anything else you'd like to add, Aiden?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
All right, everybody have an excellent night. It's always good form at the end of a stream to raid somebody. So let's see if any of the EAE or University of Utah people are streaming. If not, we will say good night. But does anyone know if like Matt or Jose or anybody is streaming? I'd have to actually open up my Twitch. Let's see. Okay, dev.exe. Okay, we'll say hi to everyone. Say hi to Matt. That's awesome. I love rating a fellow EAE professor. Here we go. And I think he's going over some cool art stuff right now. Everyone say hello to Matt. Give him a checkpoint, say a checkpoint rate or something. I don't know. Just say hi to him. And everyone have an excellent night. We'll see you next week. And just hit Aiden and I up if you have any questions. We will be available.